Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today's reading is one of my sort of astrological transits, quick check-in type readings, videos. Anybody who's familiar with this channel now will know that I do longer, more in-depth readings on a variety of topics that I post every 3 days. That allows me in between those every once in a while to do something like this, which is a quick check-in with a range of readings that might be 10 to 15 minutes long at the most, but which touch upon a particular astrological transit or a tarot topic, something that I've been called on to do for the collective, but just not necessarily in the same schedule, and quicker readings. So I normally do 3 readings in depth that people can choose from, but in these sort of readings I'm doing 4. So this is all about the full moon on the 20th of September in Pisces. And you'll have seen that with the thumbnail and the title. And like my earlier video this month, which was about the new moon, this is all about, or has all been derived from, finding a particular astrological channel called Ablus Roland Legrand. So that's by a astrologer whose name is Roland Legrand, and Ablus is the name of his astrology school. So his YouTube channel is Ablus Roland Legrand, and I think he's a really insightful, really detailed, but he brings it all together, sort of astrologer that looks at these sorts of transits. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, and if you want more detail about this particular transit, then certainly go and see his channel. It is worth the time to do that. He normally does around about 30 to 40 minute videos on these sorts of things and goes into a lot more depth than I obviously can. But this particular full moon is really interesting about our beliefs and what's working for us with our beliefs and what isn't. So I want to do a reading that looks at the beliefs that are working for us, the beliefs that possibly aren't now and we should let go of them, and what ones maybe we need to be a bit neutral about and decide in the fullness of time. And the reason for that is because of the nature of the transits that Roland was talking about in his channel that are coming up with this particular full moon. So I do suggest, I mean, obviously if you've decided which pile you want and you want to go straight to the reading, or readings, if you want to look at more than one, you can do that. But just to give the context for this, I do suggest listening to this introduction. So to give you an idea about what he's saying about this full moon in Pisces, and this is going to be very truncated, I do suggest going and listening to his video if you want more detail. The interesting things about it and why it's really about belief is that it's in Pisces. At the moment, both the Sun and Mars are in Virgo, so the opposite sign to Pisces. And the axis, in a way, astrologically, between Pisces and Virgo is between the spiritual, the beliefs, the numinous, which is Pisces, and Virgo, which is about facts and details and structure. So there's always a tension, a kind of a working out and a balancing when you've got the opposing signs, when you're looking at the energies from the opposing signs. And during this period of time, when on the 20th of September the full moon comes into being in Pisces, it's not opposite the sun in Virgo. It's a bit too wide for that, but it's what they call a hidden aspect, and Roland goes into that. So it does connect to your life path and to beliefs that are really important to you and the information that you're getting around that in terms of Virgo. And during the couple of weeks' time that goes from that to the next new moon, it will also actually be opposite Mars, when Mars is still in Virgo, but it has moved into Aries. So it will be, and he said that that's an interesting tension between the moon and Mars, so between emotions and action in a way, because Aries is Mars's house. So it's almost a bit like a visitor at your house when you're not there. So it's got that kind of discomfort level that one needs to sort of adjust to between those two sorts of energies. He also said that a lot of this sort of decision making and almost coming to the harvest of a full moon around beliefs that work for you or don't, and making those decisions, it's a strong energy through the next 2 weeks from the full moon itself. And then there's almost a longer term arc to this, because the full moon is in the last sign in the zodiac. So Pisces is the last sign in the zodiac, and then Aries is the first. moving into whatever this new way of being, the new you, the new beliefs, to some degree in the longer term will really come into being when the sun is in the first sign of the zodiac. So when the sun is in Aries, so March 2022. So it's like there's a 2-week period of time to do this assessment and maybe make some decisions where they're very clear. And then there's a longer period of time of a number of months where if things are a bit more neutral, you may wait for more information and decide where you want to move your beliefs and so forth. So it seemed to me this was a really good set of energies to look at beliefs, particularly spiritual or emotional beliefs that are covered by either Pisces or the moon, and to determine what is worth letting go of now, what is worth building into its next cycle, and what is not clear enough yet. So that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to have tarot for each of those questions for you and some oracle cards to also get Spirit's advice on that. And as always, it's important to tune into the right pile for the right reading, or readings if you want to go to more than one. To help with that, I'm using Chakra Placement Stones, the throat chakra on pile 1, the root chakra on pile 2, the crown chakra on pile 3, and the throat chakra, the third eye chakra on pile 4. And as I always say, that doesn't mean those are what the topics are under there. I don't know what's going to come up in the readings. I don't know what these cards are. It's just, I think they're a range of energies in terms of chakras that have to do with our beliefs and our sense of security, our sense of connection to the divine, our sense of connection to others, our communication and so forth. So that's why I chose those stones. They may help you choose which pile. You may have a different way to choose, whatever way works for you. When you know, the timestamps as always will be in the description box below, and I'll see you at your reading. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. These first 3 cards here are about the energy that it's done its time in a way, and it's time to sort of move on from around what you believe and what you want to do with your life. These are the ones that are working for you, or that you should be, Spirit thinks you should still be focusing on. And these are the cards around what needs more time. And I think there's a very strong connection between these two because of the Page of Fire moving to the King of Fire. So I'll get to that when I get to that particular one. But let's first of all look at what belief structure or an approach that you're doing that may not be serving you anymore, that might have reached its time. And this very much has that energy in a way, because we've got the 6 of Cups and the 4 of Cups both reversed with the 6 of Earth, so the 6 of Pentacles. This looks as though there is something that you have put a lot of effort into. It could be something in your career, it could be a creative project, it could even be a relationship because of the amount of water energy there. And it has actually been good for quite a long period of time, I think. It has served a real purpose. For instance, one of the things that it could be is putting a lot of energy into studying something, developing a skill, for instance, and having support from others to do that. And it really has taken you to a particular point that was good, or a relationship where somebody has been a real support and a mentor and a helper for you. Again, that has been good. But the interesting thing is it does seem to be connected to what was an early ambition or an early dream of yours. With the 6 of Cups, that always has a sense of nostalgia, things that we wanted from childhood, those sorts of connections. But with it reversed, that's very much saying its time is done. So this could definitely turn up for someone who is coming near to the end of a kind of study or a particular career path, and it's time to move into something else. And it did serve its purpose, as I say, and it was an early ambition. But with the 4 of Cups reversed, it's no longer providing you the emotional sustenance that you want. You actually know, this one you will know, whatever it is, you will know that there is something that has served you and wasn't the wrong belief to have, but to continue to have that belief is something that will define you and something that you need to stay in a very material way connected to. That's no longer working for you. So if this was a relationship of some sense, it may be that it was a good relationship for its time, but you've outgrown it in some way. If it's around study, it's time to say, I'm ready, I have the skills. It's now time to start to define who I am emotionally with this. If it's something creative, it was building something for you, a reputation and so forth, or around your career similarly. But there is a sense of moving on, because even though it was good, you can see that its time is running out for when it's going to still have, it's the law of diminishing returns in a way. That's the sense of it, but it's not a bad thing. The one tension with it, I think, will be is that I definitely think that you have connected with others, collaborated with others, or had a mentor or a support in some way, maybe for some connected to family. So there may be some tension around saying that was good for its time, but now I need to do something else, or now I need to believe and move in a different direction. This feels very emotional or practical. So it feels like a relationship energy or a work or creativity energy. It doesn't feel spiritual. It doesn't feel like you're necessarily moving in a spiritual belief. It's more the Virgoan side of things. But the water energy, which is the Pisces side of it, is more connected to what is going to nourish your heart and what is going to really be true to you. So whatever this is, don't feel guilty about letting it go. I think you will know what it is. Don't feel guilty about letting it go. It is the right evolution. Now, in terms of something that may be a way of believing something or something to follow and do in your life, that there's some information that comes to you, your beliefs start to crystallize in a way, and you can see there's some real benefit in it. This could either be the next step from this. The Page of Fire could be something new creatively, something new in terms of who you are and what you want to be in the world. So it definitely could be picking up on that energy. But I feel for many of you, this is around a relationship that's around you. There's a lot that you don't know yet about this relationship because the moon is there. So that's things that are still a bit hidden, things that are still not clear. It's a relationship that agitates you a bit. It's a relationship you're not really sure, is this the right person to be with? Is the right person to be around? It doesn't have to be a love relationship, though I think with many of you it might be. But there's something that's a little bit pushing against your beliefs. They maybe do have very different beliefs to you in some way, or a different approach to things, because we have the Six of Swords reversed there. So it's not a peaceful feeling. And I think that this has come up from Spirit to say that you will know for sure that this is time to move on for this. You don't have enough information around this, and it feels like it's new. It feels like it's developing. So if this is about a relationship, it's a relatively new one. It's not that you met them yesterday. With the Page of Fire, that suggests you've known each other for a while, but there's a tension. You're quite different. You're quite opposite in some ways, but there's a lot of passion there, a lot of intrigue, lots of mystery. And Spirit is saying that could in fact be a good thing. That could be something that comes to fruition. Now, having said that, even though this is meant to be, okay, take it to the next step, I think it is definitely saying whatever this is, and if it's a creative project or a career thing, then take it to the next step. Like, step forward. You don't need to have all the information at the moment. You don't need to feel completely sure about it to take it to the next level. But even if it's a relationship, and as I say, I feel it is for many, it's saying, even if it's all a little bit unknown still and it's a little bit uneasy and you're not sure, it really is worth still considering. And this is where I think it connects to the neutral end of the thing, because we have the King of Fire. So we have the Page of Fire and then the King of Fire. And I think for some who've come to this reading, there is a direct connection. It's saying that by the time we get to around about March next year, you will have a better sense of who this person is, or if it's a project, a creative project or something, what that really is for you. And you'll have worked out whether or not the differences that you feel now are about a real clash with the Five of Fire, so the Five of Wands, like it's going to be a combustible sort of relationship or a combustible sort of thing in some way, or whether or not it's something that can ground, because you don't know yet. You don't have enough information about where this passion, whether it's a passionate new project that you want to do or a passionate new relationship, as I feel it is for many, that's not clear yet. So I think in a way, even though I had thought of these as three very separate things, I think this energy will be working for you, Pile 1, around there will be something you will know that it's time to move on from. But moving into whatever's new, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a career thing, whatever it might be, you also know that there's a lot of promise. There is a lot of promise, but you don't have enough details to be sure of it yet, and it's going to take time. So I think that Spirit is basically saying, let go of what is no longer serving you, particularly on a practical and emotional level in this period of time, because your beliefs on that will be right. You will know that this is no longer right for you, but you can't settle to a belief on the rest of it because there's an opportunity, there's things coming in. If it isn't here already, then you're meeting someone soon, or you're starting a new career path or a new passion project of some sense. But I think for most of you, this is, you do actually have something in play. That's why there's something that's come to the harvest, there's something that's come into your life that now allows this question to be there. But it's not clear whether you have the foundation yet with the Three of Pentacles. It's not clear whether or not the tension will turn out to be passionate and wonderful, or become something that is wearing and difficult over time. So that's what you've got to work out. So that's why the timing's important. So let's have a look at some of the oracles that were beneath the card. So starting firstly with the Messenger Oracle. So it's a message for each of these. And then we've got a couple of questions that I want to ask. And then we're going to move to some affirmations and the Astro Chakra cards to close out at the end. So firstly, Messenger Oracle for each. Okay, so firstly, we have love, with love and kindness around this one. This is, I do feel that there is something about what you're letting go where there are other connections or other people involved in some way, but it is okay to do it. You just do it in a kind and loving way, then you can make those shifts and not necessarily destroy relationships, but shift them to what they need to be. And if it's leaving a workplace, then do it in a way that's responsible. If it's leaving a relationship, do it kindly. If it's moving away from the expectations of family or other people around you, or even work partners or collaborators in some way, you can do it with love and kindness, and that's all you really need to do, because it is the right time to do that, pile one. This is interesting. We have embrace the masculine here, and we have fire, and then we have the King of Fire. It's really confirming to me that these are connected in some way. And when I say masculine, it doesn't mean we're talking about a man, because it's just the energy of things that we think of as masculine, and that can be anywhere on the gender spectrum. But it is about embracing that side of things. In fact, it's interesting. I feel like what this is saying is that you've spent a lot of time almost in a divine feminine way of dealing with people, with the water there and that sort of earth Taurian sort of reciprocity, generosity sort of energy. And you will always have that, but it is time to do something for you. I think this is what it's really saying. Time to do that active side of things that is with the masculine energy that we think of in divine feminine, divine masculine. So don't be afraid to test this out, is what it's saying. Interestingly, the last card for the unsure is make the sacrifice. So I think this is suggesting that once you know whether or not this is right, there may be something that you need to adjust in your life if you then do continue with it going forward. So one of the things that I'm getting here is that this is a sense of almost liberation from the needs and requirements of other people. Then this is a connection with another person that may or may not be the right person in whatever form this is, work, relationships, whatever. And then this is the decision about if this then lasts the distance, what do you need to sacrifice? It may be the balancing of going back into a relationship where there is a balance and you need to do it. But this is the difference, is that where you've done it before and it's natural for you to do it, that particular phase is done. This is a new phase. So once you know, you can make the sacrifice. And if it turns out that really there is still too much tension there, it might be sacrificing it by saying this is no longer right for me either. So I think it really is about stepping out into your own sovereignty, then testing out what might be a new partnership of one form or another. And by the time we get to around about March next year, you'll have more information to work out what to do in the space of that. So I pre-chose a couple of cards from the Stories Oracle, and this Oracle has questions. It's connected to the constellations and questions. So I've only got two because it's just to sort of help you in the overarching sense of making these decisions, and we'll then shuffle for a couple of affirmation cards along those lines before we close out with the Astro Chakra. So the questions that Spirit is suggesting you think about while this is going on is firstly Corvus, and the question is, what are you procrastinating on today that will punish you tomorrow? So I think that's definitely saying don't delay on this, and don't delay on stepping into whatever this new thing is. If you procrastinate because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings or you're not sure about something, then that in itself stops that energy from working for you. And then we have crooks. What if we are not measured by what happens to us, but rather by how we respond to it? So I think for you, interestingly enough, that is a card that would normally come up, I think, when adversity occurs. But I don't think that's what this is talking about here, Phelan. I think you have actually had some very good relationships, some good connections, some good career stuff like that. That feels good. That's why you are very kind, and that's why it's a little bit hard to step into your own power and into who you really are. So it's just as much that we can be limited by good backgrounds as by difficult ones. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that people talk about dealing with the trauma of childhood or whatever when you're in a dysfunctional family and so forth. But equally, if you've been in very good relationships and good things, but you know that you need more, you need to step out into more individuality, so that maybe you then find relationships that challenge you a bit more, but that open that up. That's just as much an issue about how do we respond to things, and to what degree do we take that decision and just go with it. So to help you with that, let's ask Spirit for a couple of affirmations that will help make that decision, because I think this is the key thing. This is all about you claiming who you are and being prepared to make decisions more from, not selfishly, but more from your passions and desires rather than from this basic generosity of spirit that you have more generally. And you won't lose that generosity of spirit. That's basic to your personality. Okay, so you are safe wherever you go in life. So again, if you are procrastinating because it's like, well, this is comfortable as well, and I feel supported here, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be supported in the new things in my life, this is saying you're going to be safe. You are going to be fine. Healing is remembering you've always been whole. Again, I don't feel, I mean, maybe some of you have sort of suffered through something and you're finally separating out from it and so forth. And maybe for some of you, it is quite tumultuous, whatever this is at the moment. And so it's not an easy thing. But I think that this is really about healing that sense of wanting to support others all the time. Like this, it's almost like there's a surfeit, it's too much generosity coming from you. It's like getting that balance in your whole. And that also means that you're allowed to be you. So let's finish off with Astro Chakra cards just to see the balance against these three levels for you. Okay, so around letting go, we have the moon, so it's very much connected to this full moon energy, and it's in the 6th chakra, which is the 3rd eye chakra. So your intuition, your gut, you know this. You do know whatever this is, pile one. If this isn't resonating for you, you probably picked the wrong pile, because anybody who's come to the right pile will know exactly what this is. And this is connecting into your intuition. It's doubling up on intuition, because the 6th chakra is about that, and then the moon connecting to it is intuition. So really go into your inner knowing, that sense of like what is not fulfilling you emotionally anymore. That's you're very much on point, and that's also where you'll be protected through some of this, because it does look like there's something about whatever this thing is, whether it's a relationship or it's a creative project or a career thing, that you do feel a little bit unsafe with. You're moving from a safe harbor, but one that's stagnating for you, to one that is exciting, but it's you don't feel necessarily safe. This is saying that because Mercury is there, that communication is going to be key here, and you need to communicate what your basic needs are, like what you really want from this scenario, whether it's career or a relationship. The more clarity you can bring to that, and the more openness and honesty you can bring to that, the more you can move through and get the information you need to work this out. And then in the longer term, when you're making the decision about whether or not whatever this is something that you really want in the longer term, we've got the 2nd chakra, which is the sacral chakra, which is about creativity, it's about fertility. So, and it's about all that kind of energy. I do think for some this is about a relationship, and a very passionate one. But for others, it may be about a creative project or a collaboration. In either case, you have made a decision. It's interesting in the sense you've moved from the Page of Fire to the King of Fire. You've moved to Saturn, to discipline, to structure. So I think it is saying in that longer term, whatever this is, whatever you decide to do, you will be able to do it with the right sort of discipline and the right sort of structure to make sure that you are meeting those basic needs. And it's something creative, it's something passionate and so forth, but you understand the responsibility of it, which fits with the sacrifice. So there's something that you give up. And I do think for most, this is moving from one stable sort of relationship work type of pattern into one that's not clear yet and is far more exciting, and you will eventually get to the point where you can feel it is a stable, but it still has a creative flair, which is what you're not feeling here. So Pile 1, I hope that resonates for you, and I hope it's helpful. I really think there's some exciting stuff coming up for you, and I really think it's just make the decision that suits you, make the decision that's going to support you, and you can't really go too wrong. But I do think that there will be a longer term decision around whatever this is. If you enjoyed the reading, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if this does connect, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So these tarot cards, these three are around the beliefs and actions and so forth that Spirit is suggesting it's time to move on from. These are around the beliefs and actions that it's good to now build upon, and these are the ones where maybe put something on hold until you get more information or you're more developed in what you do. This feels very much to me, Pile 2, about someone either in their career or probably in creativity. I will touch on relationships, but I want to talk about these first because I think they're the strongest energy, where you have held yourself back from moving into the competitive field, moving forward, or anything like that, because I think you've been in a very conventional type of situation and you're not really a conventional sort of person. It's the classic sort of feeling around here where what you need to let go of is the sort of competitiveness in a very conventional environment, and that sort of sense that there's always too much to do and too many egos to deal with and all of that sort of stuff. You need to sort of let go of the sense that that is what you have to be in some way, because over here there is something that you've been working on or something you've been developing that is really well developed around creativity, could bring real abundance for you with the Empress, so the Page of Fire and the Empress together, and which is going to be a lot more emotionally resonant for you, moves you out of a feeling of being stuck. In the longer term, the thing you don't know yet about, I think, is where to place that energy. So it's a classic. If I give you an example of this around creativity, then you'll get the sense of the energy, and if it isn't creative, then you'll get a sense of the flow of this. This looks like someone, for instance, who is a very creative person, probably in the kind of creative, potentially creative professional area in one form or another, but who has been, for whatever reason, maybe it's just because you have to make money, maybe it's sort of the demands of others or whatever, you've been caught in a bit of a rat race around your career. And it's really getting to the point where you're too big for what you're in. And that kind of energy of competition and trying to keep control of things with the Chariot and so forth, in this really conventional environment, you're just feeling stuck. There is a lot of energy. I think the Knight of Air wants to turn around. There's something very quick coming through you. You're a very quick thinker, but you're not in the right environment. And I think the beliefs that made you be there, and I think some of it is about what is success? What is status? What does that really mean? It's like the classic person who has done incredibly well in a career, and it's a conventional career in some way, but it may have a lot of status. So, somebody who's, high up in financial services, for instance, but who really has the heart of a poet. It's that kind of sense about it, that maybe the battles and the competition that you've been doing there is not the right environment for you, and in some way that that's the case. And it's partly because this energy of creativity, of the new, is coming through for you, and it is very, very well aspected. Like Spirit is very much saying that you could be just as successful and just as abundant doing this creative stuff. You don't have to hold to this belief that everything has to be conventional and so forth. And that's going to be much more nourishing to your heart to allow that to come through. So it doesn't mean necessarily, Pile 2, that tomorrow you quit your job. If you don't, you haven't formed anything yet, because this is definitely suggesting that wherever you're going to put this energy, you still have time that you need to think about how to do that. But it is saying recognizing that a belief about constantly being on the treadmill of some form of status or money or moving up the ladder, if it's not really the environment for you, it doesn't matter that you might be very good at it, because I think you are. It just may not be good for you. Whereas there's creative energy, and there's something about your creativity, there's something about your passion, there's something about your charisma and your drive that is why you've done well in this environment, even though it's not really who you are. So this is about recognizing that and not getting caught in this rat race, saying I can be more and I can do more. Now in the longer term, and why in the longer term, this is really just to explore this in some way, but I'm not suggesting if this resonates that you suddenly leave your job or something. It's more like getting the balance right, like not worrying so much about success in this space, whatever it is to you, study, career, whatever it might be, because it's not really serving you anymore. It's just kind of like, just keep it running at the level it is. Don't worry about the next level within a career, for instance, because there's something else for you. Allow yourself that time. And the reason I'm saying that I think Spirit says allow that time is that in this longer term, it's saying that there's still a lot to learn with the moon there. There's like whatever it is that's new and different, and there's a lot of energy that could come through to you psychically and so forth during this period between now and March, as I said in the introduction. It's got something to do with reawakening a very early childhood dream that you put to sleep, but you don't know yet. You don't have enough information yet about where to put all this energy. I get the sense of someone who, as I say, might be a novelist, and they have a great inspiration. They can write the novel, but they can't necessarily leave the day job until they know, how would I publish this? What would I do with it? And I don't even think by March next year it'll be fully clear to you, but it will be more clear. And you'll have a better sense around that time of really what is missing in the information that you need and where you need to go to get that information and so forth. Now, if this is about a relationship, you've been in a very competitive relationship, but one that's sort of like holds you back in some way. And this, by just recognizing that and letting your own emotions and so forth come forward, may bring something. But I think if that's the case, there's not necessarily someone yet for you. It's possible, I guess, with the Page of Fire. You might have met someone and you're wondering about it, but I don't think it's necessarily going to come into being immediately. And again, if that's the case, there's the longer term thing of working out, is this the right relationship and so forth. But I do feel for most of you that this is more around leaving something conventional in work, moving into something that's more unique and more inventive and more creative in some way. So let's use some of the cards that were under the Chakra Placement Stone. So firstly, using the Messenger Oracle for a message for each of these particular decision points for you. Okay, so I think that this is telling us that, whatever this creative or fiery or passionate energy for you, there is something a bit magical about it. There is something, you are someone who can manifest. The fact that you've got trust in magic with Venus, the Empress, that's the classic manifestation. So if that's why you've been so good at whatever this thing is that's not really you, because you're just really good at manifesting. So if you set your mind to a competition, you're always going to win that competition, to be frank. But it's making sure it's the right competition to have. So understanding that you have that magic. So when you move into doing this, even if it isn't fully formed, even if it takes some time, trust that what's coming through. This says here, the ancient ones. I think this could be saying that there is a spirit guide around you, an ancestor or an ancient sort of entity that is trying to get you to see how you've got yourself in this rat race, and that's not really what you're here to do. And so I feel looking at this, you could get interesting dreams, interesting synchronicities. Pay attention to those. It's all to remind you, because you're just so good at succeeding, and to some degree that's part of how you've defined yourself. You could just keep getting caught in that if you don't understand that there's more for you to do. And this is interesting around how do you find out more? See yourself in nature. So there could be some of the people who've come here, maybe this sort of creative or new project has something to do with nature, has something to do with that kind of thing. If so, then certainly start to see yourself in it. And I think it doubles down on the manifestation thing, because the more you see yourself in something, the more you can be successful at it. Again, that's why you have been. It's just it isn't working for you anymore, but I think overall it was just too conventional for you. There's also a sense, I think, here of almost something scientific or structured, the very Virgoan energy, as I say, with that axis that's going on with the energy at the moment. So understanding who you are, what your nature is, what really sustains you, what makes you feel good, what makes you physically feel good is important. So understanding that will help you when you're working out where to put this energy. So let's also use the Stories Oracle to get a couple of questions for you that are worth thinking about in this time. So the first question is, how might you flourish if you gave yourself permission to change? There you go. So that's the constellation of Eridanus, and that is absolutely that. If you give yourself permission to change and try something new, how might you flourish? And the second question is, what will bloom from your ashes? So the phoenix. So yeah, again, that's the fiery energy around this. It's the sense of, some people may think, for some of the people who come to pile 2, that you make a decision and it's almost like you're burning the bridges literally on something that was so successful. Like, why are you doing that? It's like you're a wonderful lawyer and you're doing brilliantly with all of that, but you leave to become a musician, for instance. And people go, why are you doing that? But you're doing it because that's how you rise from the ashes. That's how you reconstitute who you are, and you really get in touch with your magic. So let's ask for a couple of affirmations around that before we close out with the Astro Chakra cards. So Spirit, what is a couple of affirmations for pile 2 to have both the courage, I think, and also the patience, because there is a little bit of patience around how to manifest all of this, but how they can do that so that they move and take that success energy and manifestation energy into something that's more true to themselves. It's interesting, that one came up in another reading. So I think there's something, I think this is telling me there's something about this energy which is about healing and being whole and being who you are, which sort of makes sense when we're looking at, what are your beliefs and what work for you or not. So healing is remembering you've always been whole. I think is connecting to this see yourself in nature, like understanding that the skills that you have are transferable, that you can heal and become more who you are by remembering that you're not just about the rat race, that's your success. There is an indication of success for other things. It also says don't squeeze a dream too tightly and must breathe to live. I think that's the feeling I'm getting here, pile 2, around you don't have to rush this. It's more like, as I say, if this is a classic thing where you're in a conventional job that you're very successful in, but you wanted to do something creative, you don't have to drop the job and make it also high stakes for yourself that you squeeze the dream too tightly and it's all really stressful. You could just say, I'm no longer going to be so focused on this. I will do what I need to do to earn my money and to keep my respect and my reputation, but I'm not that's not where my light on the hill is anymore. This is, and you allow yourself time to do it. So let's have a look at the Astro Chakra cards to close out the reading for you. Okay, so firstly, the third chakra, the solar plexus chakra, all about self-actualization, who you are, all about power, self-empowerment and so forth, has Saturn and self-discipline. This is you, really, in a nutshell, pile 2. You are very disciplined and you are very focused, and you are a self-starter, and it's why you're so good in these competitive environments, and you have a lot of power within that. I think it's remembering that, but it's also the self-discipline to do the timing right, you're not the sort of person who's going to just sort of jump into something until you've got the foundations right. So that's part of your power. It's you understand. This is the Virgoan thing. You understand the structure of the universe. You understand the levers that you have to pull. And so remember that's part of who you are in whatever environment you're in. That allows you then to start to embrace your creativity more. So this is the second chakra, that's the sacral chakra. It's very fertile. There is a possibility, I've got to say, I'm getting for some people who come here, that it might be about the choice between a career and all of that and potentially parenthood. With those energies, that's possible. That's possible. But if that's the case, then this is a separate issue, I think, because that looks good. I think this is more around something to do with who you are authentically. So the two things are happening at the same time. But for some of you, it could be that. For most, however, with Neptune there, that's picking up sort of inspiration, the creative energy. It's just letting that come through. And I think that all the Spirit is saying is just let that come through for the moment. Just let that be fertile within you. Because you will not make a decision. You're not the sort of person who's going to make a decision to, as I say, just sort of jump into something until you're ready, and you won't move until you really know more. And that's further down the track, because we have the first chakra, the foundational chakra, the chakra that's about survival here. So you will always make sure that anything you do, even in the move to be more seeing yourself in nature, knowing your own nature, being authentic, you will always make sure that it's in a firm foundation, that you use your discipline. But the energy here is with Uranus and individuality. So this is the tension that's operating, and this is saying that you know, back yourself, you know that you can succeed in that sort of world. That's not a problem. And all of those sort of skills can help you succeed at something else. And you do need to do this to be true to yourself, because you're going to feel more and more and more stuck if you stay just with that. But you're going to balance Saturn and Uranus. You're going to balance the sense of, what do I need to do to be true to myself, and what do I need to do in a way that is sensible, so that I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So that's really powerful for you. I think that you are going to go through a major transition, but I think you'll start to see it in this period of time. You're seeing probably already. It probably won't come into full fruition even by March next year, but you'll be more towards it. You'll have more of a sense about what this really looks like for you, and over time you'll get to the point where you'll make the right decision. You'll know when to move. So pile 2, I hope that resonates for you, and I hope it's helpful. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if this does resonate for you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So these 3 tarot cards are around the belief or the actions that it's time to start to let go of. These are around ones that it's time to say, okay, now I've got to almost a realization here. This is my next step. And these are the longer term ones that it's worth waiting on before determining. So the energy here is interesting. It's an energy of somebody who, I think, either in a work situation or in a relationship, and it's probably either of those at equal level, have been in a situation where there has been an injustice done, where something is not fair, and that is really about suppressing who you are. So if it's a relationship, you've been in one which has not been emotionally balanced and authentic. There has been some sort of potentially game playing and mind games operated with it, but at the very least something that hasn't been right or fair, and you haven't necessarily wanted to fully see it, or you haven't necessarily seen all of it with the blindfold that often comes with the 2 of Swords or the 2 of Air. But Spirit is saying it's time to recognize that it is true that some sort of injustice or some sort of deceit or something like that has been occurring. And if it's in a workplace or something like that, then you haven't been treated fairly. If it's in a relationship, then something not honest is there. And it is time to let go of the beliefs that you had in that, to make the decision that, yes, this is not working for me on some level. Now, it may take a while, particularly if this is around a workplace, for you to fully work through what that means, because there's quite a bit of energy down here in that yet to be seen type of area that suggests this is not going to happen overnight. It will take some time through to next year to fully work out what this means, but it is time to make that decision. The sort of sitting in the indecision and sitting in not wanting to see what's actually going on, that time is done. You need to see this, because what's going on is, what you could do is complete a cycle, but you're stopping yourself from completing the cycle, or someone else is stopping you, because we have the world reversed. So it is like the harvest of the understanding, but it's just the beginning, because there's a lot of repair work to be done, pile 3. Something in this understanding that you're Queen of Fire, your true self, your self-actualized self, and being able to be recognized and applauded and rewarded for what you do has been held down for quite some time by something, by, as I say, a relationship or in career or something like that. Or study. It could be that you're not being treated fairly there. There is something about study or skills here, so that's a possibility as well too, depending upon your age. But it's the realization of it that's important here. And so the thing to really start to think about is, what would it mean to be in this period of time? What the belief structure you need to move into is, how do I complete the process of being true to who I am and being recognized for that? So as I say, if it is about just a kind of more amorphous thing where you sort of felt like you haven't been seen, that's one thing. But I do think for many there could have been something quite unjust that's occurred, and you've missed out on a job you should have got. You didn't get the study results that maybe were fair. Your ideas are being stolen by someone, and you're not ever able to really actualize them. So it's really just about understanding that. Because in the longer term, you can get to the point where you have more stability with the Eight of Earth or the Eight of Pentacles. It may require you shifting gears quite a bit. It might be that say if it's in a career, you've been pursuing something in an environment where the odds are stacked against you. If you went and did a different type of study, you got into a different skill set, you used your skills in a different way, you can start to separate yourself from that. So that's one possibility. But it does look like it doesn't happen overnight. It does look like freedom, which is the Eight of Fire, Eight of Wands. It's reversed. It will take some time to fully see what that is, particularly if you do need to acquire some other skills or other networks and so forth to connect you into what the new thing is. And the important thing is not to give up hope. There is a risk in here that you may feel, well, I'm just stuck with this. But Spirit is saying, no, you're not. But it's been because you were worried about the consequences of needing to move on or stand your ground in some way that you've delayed dealing with it. So it's a bit of a tricky energy, I have to say, Pile 3, but I think it's one just to make you realise that yes, you're not being a prima donna about something. You really haven't been treated fairly. You really haven't been able to really express who you are and to be able to grab your skills and so forth. There's something different for you. And if this is a relationship, there is a different relationship that is more grounded, but maybe found through something like a different occupation or a different study or something like that, if that's the case. But you do need to heal. This is definitely saying you need to heal before you can move through that, because something has not been right. So let's ask the cards that were under the placement stone with this. So firstly, I'm using the Messenger Oracle for messages for you for each of these particular sort of questions. Okay, so firstly we've got become a shapeshifter. I do think this is confirming to me that you are not, for whatever reason, in a relationship or in work, and I think a lot of this is around work or study or something, but it could be around a relationship as well. You are not in a clear-cut scenario. So as you start to work out who you are and what you want to do, you're going to have to almost put on a mask with the people that you're around. Like, you don't necessarily show to them at this point that you've realised this. It's more around you're working out what's your escape plan, what's your next steps and so forth. And you may need to be a shapeshifter. You may need to be a little bit hidden in what you do. Let them be the ones to have the blindfold on if they're not treating you right. This is saying love without condition. I don't think this is about you unconditionally accepting bad behaviour, particularly if it's in a relationship. I think this is about loving you without condition and self-love, with the fact that it naturally fell on the Queen of Fire, which is the authenticated, self-actualized person when it's the right way up. That's what you need to do. It's like this has made you feel less than you are. This has made you feel unlovable on some level, and it's not true. Now, it is possible with the two Queens reversed that this is actually some woman in your environment. So that could be a love relationship for you. It could be a parental figure. It could be a woman in a workplace. It doesn't have to be. Queens aren't always women, but it could be sort of someone with feminine sort of characteristics. But you need to re-own who you are. And if this is sort of something where it's a frenemy, and that's another possibility with this energy, then it's someone who's been whittling away at your self-confidence, probably because they're threatened by you. So you have to re-own who you are. That's the key thing here. Spirit wants you to use this energy to make a determination, a cry to the heavens, so to speak, that you are going to be you, and you are lovable, and you are worthy of recognition and respect. Then we've got heed your dreams, and that's interesting again that it naturally fell on the reversed star. So I think it's Spirit saying in the longer term, you are allowed to dream. You should have dreams for yourself. Again, don't listen to programming or people who are telling you you shouldn't. It's also saying pay attention to dreams, dream symbolism, synchronicities and so forth, a kind of psychic connection for you. So, and it's interesting that the image in here is like the tree of life in a way, and then we have the earthy sort of energy of the Eight of Pentacles. There's something grounded about that. So heed your dreams and ground them and believe that you can actually do what you need to do. I just feel like you've been told by one or more people that you can't do certain things, or you aren't a certain type of person, or you're second rate or whatever, and none of it's true. Like, none of it's true. And if it's in a romantic relationship, then it's time to own back your own self so that you can actually find the dream relationship that you're looking for. So let's see what the Stories Oracle has. This is an oracle that has questions. So there were pre-intuitively chosen 2 cards to see the questions that Spirit thinks would be really useful for you to ask in this period of time. So firstly, we have Canis Minor, and it is, what if your grief liberated you? There you go. And then the second one is Cancer, what would you do for those you care for? So I think this is about you. You should care for you. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to throw out everybody that you care about, and you will do things for people that you care for, but I think it's suggesting that also on the other side, maybe you've done too much for people who care for you that weren't reciprocating. And like, if there's grief around leaving whatever this is, it's a liberation. It's your cry to the heavens, as I say. I get this sense that there's a real, whatever it is, and as I say, it could be romantic, it could be a frenemy, it could be a work situation. There's something like that. And it will take you a bit of time, but don't judge yourself on that. Don't feel like, if I don't make the decision tomorrow, I'm lacking. That's not what this is about. You really have gone through a difficult time. So let's ask for a couple of affirmations from Spirit for you in moving through this and letting go of the grief and letting go of what isn't serving you. Okay. So firstly, releasing toxic things helps you grow. It's the same message over and over for you, pile 3. There is something that's not right around you. You're not being a drama queen about it. It is true. And you do need to decide that you're going to be true to yourself. And it says, wherever you decide to go with all your heart. Heed your dreams. Love your vision. Like, I feel really empathic at this point around this. I feel like so much like I just want to like kind of almost give you a virtual hug, like believe in yourself and your lovability, because somebody's done a number on you, I think. So let's finish off with the Astro Chakra cards to give you the sort of final messages from Spirit for this particular period. Yeah, this is picking up the same energy really strongly. So here we have the sacral chakra. So fertility, creativity, all of those sort of things. Be the shapeshifter, create who you want to be, love nature, creative self-expression. It is important about self-expression. The irony about this is, I think whoever this is around you was originally drawn to you because of your creative fire, because of your authenticity, and it's almost like they were so jealous of it, they've eroded it. So this is about recognizing that you still have that. You still have the love nature, you still have the creativity, and owning that, not letting somebody else decide for you and make it their expression, not your self-expression. Over here, once you start to do this, you have the fourth chakra, the heart chakra, love energy opening up. But with Saturn, which is focus, like focus on you, focus on who you want to be and how you want to be seen. Bring that structurally into your life. Make the shifts and changes that you need, but it's not fast. With Saturn, it's a slower energy. That's why I say don't feel like you have to rush it, but always assess things about whether they are in that kind of discipline, that focus, they are right for you. And if they are, you can keep it in your life. And if it isn't, then work out the way and the timetable for how you move away from that. Because this is about who you are at a base. This is about survival, not necessarily in whether you live or die, but in that sense of really who you are at a foundation with the foundation or the root chakra there. And again, it's about love. So there's a real sense of connection between your creativity and who you are, and it's important to feel safe. I think this is saying you will get to a point with the Eight of Pentacles where you feel safe. It takes a while to liberate yourself from everything, but staying true to your dreams and focusing on what love is to you and your own self-love, that's what you need to do. So I do wish you well, pile 3. I think this is a tricky and challenging energy, but I think you know that this is time to do it, and I think that you won't rush into it. You will do what you need to do, and in the meantime, you'll be the shapeshifter. You'll be the person who appears how you need to appear until you've got your ducks in a row, so to speak. I hope this is helpful, and I hope that you enjoyed the reading to the degree that a reading like that is enjoyable. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if this does resonate and you want to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 4, to your reading. So these 3 cards are around beliefs or actions that it's time to let go of. These 3 are around ones that it's time to consider, move forward, grow, and these are the ones where there's a little bit of put on pause and decide later sort of energy around it. So there's a couple of ways of reading this, and I think one is around relationship, and I will talk about that first, I think. And then the other is more around just general decision making and how you make decisions and how you decide who you are in the world. But starting with relationship first, when I look at these 3 cards together, with the moon, which is usually about secrets or things that are unknown or things that are hidden, with the 2 of air or the 2 of swords, where that's around decisions, like how you make decisions about what you believe, which is very true for this energy, but also like the information that you're getting, whether you're getting all the information you need. Those 2 cards together suggest to me that there's something around you that you haven't been able to get the information, that there are secrets around, whether for good or ill purposes. It's almost neutral about that. But what it's doing is it's taking the fire out of something. It's making something feel impermanent or not authentic to you anymore. So for a relationship, this might be that people who've come to this reading are in a relationship or been circling around one, and it's just not clear, and it's not becoming any clearer. Or it maybe was originally very passionate, but some of that has died because there's a feeling of secrets around it. Doesn't necessarily mean that someone's cheating or doing anything like that, but it just might be that there's a separation happening almost on a passion level, but it's not being articulated in some way. Or there could be other things going on in the other person's life they're not sharing. Or it could be you could be wanting to keep secrets. You could feel that the cost of the passion has been to almost feel invaded on a mental level and so forth. Someone who's a bit obsessive around you, for instance. So there's just that kind of sense that the thing that is time to let go of is all the energy around still trying to work this mystery out. Like you're not going to work this mystery out. If it's a mystery within yourself, it's just you telling you this isn't the right thing for you. If it's someone else, you're just not going to get it. I think that the Spirit is saying it's not worth putting all that energy into that anymore. And if that is stuck in this sort of sense of just not being able to decide and not being clear on the information, that's an answer in itself, I think it's saying. Because over here, it looks like if you make that kind of decision, you let go of a lot of internal conflict. The 5 of swords, the 5 of air is reversed. So you're moving out of that sense where there's conflict and difficulty. It's allowing that just to kind of go, that isn't working for me anymore. It allows you to make more pragmatic choices that don't have to be for forever. This feels like someone who's maybe got a relationship that they're in or been circling around, as I said, that's not really, it's just not landing, or it's shifting internally away if it's been together, and there's maybe someone else around, or there's other opportunities around. And I think what Spirit is saying is it's okay to embrace the concept of trying out other things. Like, they don't have to be, this doesn't have to be a permanent relationship. It may be someone who's been in a very long-term relationship and is used to being in long-term relationships, but they know it's not really, something's not right anymore. There's another opportunity over here, but it's not sure whether it's for the longer term. And I think Spirit is saying, let go of all the philosophies and beliefs about relationships. Like, that's the key thing. It's like you have a belief about what a relationship should look like, and for whatever reason this one isn't fulfilling that anymore. But if you let go of that and maybe just experiment a bit and have a bit of fun, basically, have a little bit of romance in your life without worrying about, is this going to be the one? It may turn out to be the one, but if it doesn't, it's still an enjoyable thing, and it takes you out of this sense of being caught, trapped by what you expect from relationships. It's a longer term thing. I don't think, if this is a relationship, I don't think that you're going to know one way or the other. And I don't think you're going to want to, actually. I think once you allow yourself to liberate from what is the conventional way that a relationship is, to I'm going to explore and I'm going to see what works for me, it takes time for you to really determine that, because we've got the star reverse. So there's a pragmatic approach that you're taking to things. It's like being pragmatic about how does this really fit, and what's a really authentic relationship. It takes time. The Ace of Earth or the Ace of Pentacles is reversed. It's like it's not feeling to me like this energy you move into is necessarily going to ground for a long period of time. It could, but if it does, you'll be very pragmatic about it, and it will require you to sort of step out and take the lead with the Four of Air or Four of Swords reversed. So what this says to me in a classic sense is people who've maybe been in a relationship that's got stale, or is maybe now got secrets in it that don't feel right, and you need to shift away from, oh, I've failed at a relationship, if that's the case. That's not the case. It's just things have their time, to moving into a period of more impermanence about that and experimentation. And when the time comes for you to make the decision about this or another relationship, you will take the lead and you will make the decision. It's in your timing. Maybe in this one it was somebody else's timing. They did all the pursuing. It's almost like it shifts. Once you click into a different type of energy, you're the one who pursues. I think most of you, this is the energy around it. It's around relationship. But if it's around who you are, then it's a similar thing. It feels like there's some old ways of doing things that were part of your philosophy, but you're getting really strong sort of senses, maybe sort of psychic senses, that's no longer serving you. It's like you just feel dull and uninspired. There's a little bit of a similar energy to another reading in this group, so you may in fact have been drawn to both. If that's the case, then it's definitely a double energy of, you're not in the space intellectually, philosophically, and beliefs that's inspiring you anymore, but you're not necessarily going to fully find what that's going to be. You need to experiment for a bit, and you need to be pragmatic then about where you're going to put your energy in the longer term. So don't jump from one thing that you put a lot of energy into that's got stale into thinking, well, I've got to be committed to the next thing. There's really a sense of allow yourself scope and latitude to experiment and work out what you want to do and what you want to last and so forth. So let's have a look at some of the cards that were under the Chakra Placement Stones. So starting with the Messenger Oracle, so it has messages for each of these three energies. Okay, so this kind of very much connects with that sort of the pattern of this, I think. Firstly, there's a time to reflect. You do need to realise you're being stuck a little bit in this energy. Use this energy around this transit to really reflect on whether or not something is serving you anymore, because I don't think it is. And if you reflect on that and you determine that, you've kind of kept yourself in something because of some philosophical belief about what success or doing the right thing looks like, then you're keeping yourself in an energy that's not clear. It's not. And it's interesting too that there's reflect and we have the moon, because the moon, of course, reflects the light of the sun. So I think there is a kind of sense of the Knight of Fire reverse is almost like it's not the sun reverse, but it's got that sort of sense of fiery energy that's being held back, and it's now reflective. So I think reflect works on two levels at the moment. It's saying this time that you've been in, you were reflecting your own energy rather than living in it. And also once you reflect and see that, you can start to move out of whatever this energy is. Over here, reveal your truth. For some, this is about breaking up from somebody and then being more true to yourself and really bringing out some of this. So for some of you, it may be you, as I say, who's really been wanting to move away, not the other person. And you're going to have to move into this, reveal that at some point and reveal who you are and what you're looking for. But again, it doesn't mean in doing that you have to make another firm decision. When you know that you need to make the decision, you will, because we've got need and necessity here. What I like is that picks up the pragmatic feeling of the star reversed, but it is about you deciding when you need to do something and know earlier, and you deciding what you need and so forth. So it's you taking back control of either yourself in the sense of who you want to be, how you want to be in relationships and those sort of things, or taking back control from a relationship that isn't working to move into the experimentation of finding one that does. So let's have a look at the Stories Oracle, which asks questions. So I asked Spirit for 2 when I was doing intuitively picking for this particular pile. The questions that are worth considering during this period of time. So firstly, we've got Delphinus, and it says, if we carry the work of our ancestors, are they not immortal? And then the second one is Cepheus, and that is, what if you weren't required to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm? Okay, so this is very much giving me the sense that many of you, in terms of what this philosophy you had about relationships has maybe come from family or from your culture. And so it's important to be true to what is true in that for you, but to know more, because you don't necessarily have to set yourself on fire to and like burn out everything that you want just to sort of meet, you know, the needs of the past and so forth. This really is about what is working for you now and what isn't, and not having to always self-sacrifice on some level. So let's ask for a couple of affirmations for you around this energy. So Spirit, can we have a couple of affirmations to help pile 4 in this period of time of starting to own more about what is going to work for them, and to be comfortable to experiment around what is going to work for them? Okay, so this is pretty clear. Doubt kills dreams, not failure. So don't worry. You know, if this is around career and about yourself, don't worry. Experimentation is fine. Some things are going to work, some things aren't. Some things are going to take, some things aren't. Same thing with relationships, but that's not the point. Staying true to the dream and what you want is the point. And then if your dreams don't scare you a little, they are too small. So again, don't limit yourself into what a relationship or self-actualization looks like. Dream big, experiment, have a bit of fun. So let's finish off with the Astro Chakra cards, just for some last advice from Spirit on each of these issues. Okay, so this gives us a little bit more information, I think. Firstly, in what you need to let go of, this is a transformative time for you, and this moon energy is psychic to some degree. You are getting messages, I think. You are picking up stuff. You are seeing below the surface with Pluto, and it's very transformative. It's connected to the 6th chakra, which is about intuition, psychic stuff, telepathic stuff. If you have a sense around a relationship, you're going to be dead on, but it does need to change. And it is possible with the moon card there and with Pluto that something may be revealed to you in this period of time that helps you make that decision and helps you feel comfortable with it. Certainly, once you move into this more uncertain period of time, you're going with a lot of wisdom with Jupiter in the 3rd chakra, which is all about your self-empowerment. You will operate with honor. So I don't think that in doing this, if you feel like, well, you just have to have this type of relationship, or you have to behave this particular way in a workplace or whatever it is, that you're going to lose your honor by deciding not to commit immediately to something else. You will be wise in how you do that, because you are a very honorable person. You're also a very generous person. This may be why you've got caught in this mess in the first place, because you've kind of put your own needs aside, even when some of the information was telling you that it was not being reciprocated in some way. But when you're working at this need and necessity, you will come from a place of love. You will also get Jupiter again. So we've got Jupiter twice, and this time in the 4th chakra, which is the heart chakra. So when you're trying to determine that, and when you want to start to articulate what you want in a relationship or in life, then you will come from a place of wisdom. You will come from a place of generosity. So you are not losing the fundamental ethics and honor of yourself, because that is part of who you are. But it is allowing you the license to experiment and find out what works for you, not what works in some idea about the right relationship or the right career or whatever it might be. So I do hope this liberating energy, which is here, is works for you, and that you can resonate with it and that it helps you. I hope you enjoyed the reading as well, Pile 4, and if so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And I do hope you chase those dreams and you allow yourself to experiment, because I think there's a very fertile period for you if that's what you want to do. And if you do relate to this and you can see how it works already, be very interested to hear about in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.